You really have to understand what are your priorities right now. Is it a career acceleration or is it really looking after your health?
Hannah Hotline, how can I redirect your call? Oh, hello. I have a really big problem at
Dear
work.
Hannah Hotline.
I don't really like my boss. I'm really attracted to the guy I work with, but
I just want to say no, but I say
it's
yes.
my self-esteem, you know? Maybe it's burnout. This is the operator putting you through now.
Hey hotties, welcome back to another episode of Hannah Hotline. And as you know, if you have a career dilemma of any sort and you want to be featured on the podcast or in the Daily Telegraph, you can email me at hello@hannahkissel.com to be featured on the pod. All right, let's jump right in. Dear Hannah, I'm a 38-year-old project manager at a large financial institution. I've been in back-to-back burnout cycles for the past 2 years. I came out of a bad one about 18 months ago and swore I'd do things differently, and here I am again. For context, I'm really good at my job. Good for you. I stay late, I triple check everything, I answer Slack messages at 10 p.m. because if I don't, I lie awake worrying about what someone might think. I work across teams in different time zones, which means my evenings are basically never mine. I've started having stomach issues that my doctor thinks are stress related. I'm anxious more days that I'm not, and my nervous system feels completely fried. The person at the equivalent level on my team, I genuinely like her, does about half of what I do and seems completely fine. No late nights. Meanwhile, I'm over here writing a novel of a brief, so nobody asks me a follow-up question. I also can't leave the company because I want to buy a house, so I need this salary. So I can't just quit. I need to figure out how to actually survive this place without destroying my health in the process. I've tried therapy and saying no, but I keep ending up back here. What am I missing? Signed, exhausted, but doing great on performance reviews. Okay, so whenever someone is presenting with burnout, I'm always looking for three things. And these are based on Christina Maslach's theory of burnout. So that is 1, emotional exhaustion, 2, depersonalization or cynicism, and 3, a reduced sense of accomplishment. So this listener has all of these. So she's got emotional exhaustion. She's been in back-to-back burnout cycles. She feels like her nervous system is completely fried. There's also like the depersonalization. She's saying that she can never switch off from work. She feels like she always has to be on. She's thinking about work at 10 p.m. She's responding to Slack at all hours. And then there's a reduced sense of accomplishment. So she also thinks that, she's comparing herself to her colleague who's doing half as much, but still performing quite well. So this listener definitely would qualify as someone with burnout. And the treatment for this, it can be a little bit nuanced, especially if you are in high performing environments and you work in jobs like law or finance or consulting or even construction or tech. And typically these are called greedy jobs. And these jobs ask a lot of you. So when someone is working in a greedy job industry, such as finance, what I'm always trying to see is it the job and the dynamic of the job, or is it the person's personality that's always pushing them to do more, or the identity? So right here in this email, it's a bit of both. She has a job, she works across different time zones. So that means that she's likely on early night calls, late night calls, especially if she's writing in from Australia, if she has to do calls with the US or in Europe, or even some parts of Asia or India, then she's probably on calls up to 12 to 14 hours a day. But then there's also the personality type that she referenced, which is almost of like a perfectionism. She's like triple checking. She is constantly responding to Slack. She doesn't want anyone to feel like she doesn't know things, so she'll write a novel as a response. So with that, we have to treat two different things separately. So one of them is looking at what is the real priority in her life right now. And she says that she wants to buy a house, so I get that. But then there's also looking at what are the actual stressors. And let's say she does buy a house, she does take on a mortgage, but then in a few years, work has to reduce drastically because she's hospitalized or because she can't keep working at the pace. So she has to change jobs and take a drastic step down. Is that something that you want to face? So there are certain realities of being diagnosed with burnout. And typically people with burnout, if they do get to that point, usually they have to take a 15% pay decrease. And then over time, it still dips at about 12%. So to your pre-burnout salary. So this is why if you have early warning signs of burnout, this listener is not early warning signs. She has burnout right now. But if you've got early warning signs, it is so imperative to catch it early so that you can make modifications in your career so you don't have to deal with the long-term implications of a salary decrease, especially if you're a skilled professional, because that can really change your quality of life, your ability to pay for things for your children, private school fees, etc. But back to this listener. So right now we want to look at, okay, what's the main priority in her life right now? Is it health, or is it potentially going into a mortgage with something that she actually might not be able to even afford in a few years if she does have to take a step down from work? So really looking at holistically what matters here. Now, the good thing is that she is a colleague who is still performing at what seems like at a very high level, but not over giving. So that to me is a clue that actually she can really change things about the way that she works. That doesn't mean it's not going to be painful, because she likely has a belief system going on that says, I'm only worthy if I outperform. I have to keep going. This was likely something that was learned in childhood, unfortunately. So what's going on in her that she thinks that she has to keep going, keep over giving? How can we start to change that? Now, just on like some tactical things here. So if you're working across time zones, is there a way of just really putting your schedule in so it's a little bit more concise? So let's say I only work on, with the UK on Tuesdays, or I only work with the UK on Tuesdays or Wednesday nights. So you can condense the times and calls that you make into really specific nights so that you don't have to take late night calls every single night. Same with early mornings. That can be a bit tricky to navigate, especially if you're working with more senior stakeholders in the region. But that's just something that you're going to have to navigate with your manager. And if you're going through severe health issues right now, you've got stomach pain, your doctor thinks this is stress related, your work is likely going to try to accommodate you, because they're probably not going to want you to go on sick leave or stress leave and then have to pay out some sort of income protection. So work is looking at this in multiple lenses, as should you. So number one, it's seeing, okay, at a tactical level, can you change the hours that you work? Then when we look at the habit of like triple checking, of always going back, of writing a novel, this is kind of where the real painful work comes in, because it's actually, how do you start to break that habit? And here I would suggest really working with a coach on that, because it seems like therapy has gotten you so far and it's not really working. And a lot of times people come to me that are highly therapized and they're really aware of all their problems, but they're not really changing. And typically that's because of the mode of therapy versus the mode of coaching. And the mode of therapy is usually high support, but it's low challenge. With a coach, you're going to be challenged a bit more. So you want someone to work with that is going to be highly supportive during this time, but also challenging you to work on this and really saying, okay, you said you weren't going to triple check. You said that you weren't going to work till 10 p.m. Why did you do that again? How can we make it so you're not doing that again? Versus, okay, this is why you're doing it. It's because, your father told you that you weren't good enough. Blah, blah, blah. You're still carrying these wounds from childhood. Yes, of course. Those are painful. Yes, of course. I've got those too. But if you don't work through them, then nothing's going to change. And if you're not held accountable for them, then you're still going to be doing the same shit, likely in 2 years, not going to be able to work because you're so burned out, end up in the hospital. I mean, I've seen this all, and it can get to a point that's quite destructive. So number one, tactically look at, what is the role? Can you reduce your hours? Then there's different things that you can do here. So if you want to stay within the organization, which it sounds like you're compensated really well, you probably have some brand equity, it is maybe longer term looking into a role that's not a global role. Can you look into a role that's just focused on your market or your region? I have a client that we're working through this right now. Sometimes that means a decrease in scope. And you really have to understand, what are your priorities right now? Is it a career acceleration, or is it really looking after your health? Because you can't have both all at the same time. And that's what people don't realize, is that every choice has trade-offs. So if you want to keep working at this level and you want to keep your scope, you're likely going to keep encountering health issues. But if you want to really prioritize your health, then you're likely going to have to decrease in scope, which means you might have to take a pay cut for the short term. You might be working with less senior stakeholders. You might have less visibility, but is that worth it to you if you aren't getting sick all the time, if your stomach issues go away? And that's a real question of also like, what are your values in this season of life? Is it success at all costs? Or is it that I want to look after myself? You wrote into this podcast, so I'm guessing that you do actually really want to look after yourself. And then it's looking at what are the trade-offs that I'm willing to make? Are those worth it? If I'm seeing a lot of mental anguish about it, okay, how can I really work through that so that I don't have to struggle? But really, this is a really great email. It's a question that I get a lot. It's a question that I coach on a lot. So good luck with everything. I'd love to hear from you with a follow-up. And again, if you want to be featured in Hannah Hotline, you can email me hello@hannahkissel.com. Also, share this with a friend. If you have a friend who has burnout, or if you have a friend who just like talks to you about this stuff but changes nothing, and you don't want to give them some tough love, send them my way, because I will. But I also want to work with people because you don't have to struggle so much. You can have a really thriving career and not be sick. I truly, firmly believe that. So thank you, Hannah Hotties. I will see you in 2 weeks.
Hannah Hotline. Email her and you'll be fine. When your brain goes bing, bang, bonka, bing, boom. Email Hannah Hotline. Email Hannah Hotline.
Hannah Hotline is sponsored by Dominique Jingles, where quirky, clever and corporate branding is reimagined. DM Dominique on Instagram at Dominique Jingles or email dominiqueenglish04@gmail.com.